Our top story today. There is clearly not the best time that is going on for India's aviation sector. From the devastating Air India aircraft crash that killed over 250 people to the recent operational chaos involving Indigo that threw flight schedules into disarray, to the private plane accident that claimed the life of Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar. Just in the past 24 hours alone, there have been at least 3 instances, one of them resulting into deaths as well. An air ambulance crashed in Jharkhand. Everyone on board could not make it. The Pawan Hans helicopter crash landed in Andaman and Nicobar Islands after a mid-air snag. Luckily, all 7 people on board were actually rescued safely. And then you had a scare on the SpiceJet Delhi-Leh flight. It was diverted back to Delhi due to a technical snag. Remember, just these 3 things reported in just the past 24 hours. And we've spoken about the big tragedies we've seen in the past year to even in the past 5 years that have been emerging. All of this points to just one thing. Our aircrafts and choppers aren't inspiring a lot of confidence at the moment. But beyond that lies a much larger and far more serious question. Is India's aviation watchdog struggling to safeguard our skies? India today can now reveal that the Director General of Civil Aviation, the DGCA, which is sort of the key body there, is battling significant staff shortages, even as it is tasked with overseeing airlines, charter operators, maintenance organizations, and air safety compliances across the world's fastest growing aviation market. Let's look at the numbers that we got as India Today's reporters filed an RTI asking this question. In the Airworthiness Wing, the division responsible for aircraft maintenance oversight and technical compliance, there are 310 sanctioned posts. Only 174 are filled as we speak. That leaves 136 vacancies. In percentage terms, it's about 44% positions are unoccupied. In the Air Safety Wing, which conducts surveillance, audits, monitors safety protocols, 116 posts are sanctioned and only 86 currently hold. That means again 30 vacancies in the department directly responsible for monitoring operational safety. These revelations come after an RTI application sought detailed information about DGCA's oversight mechanisms, particularly its audits of non-scheduled operations, private and charter aircraft that fall squarely under the regulatory ambit. And this was given in a response. Detailed information was requested on DGCA audits of these operators. The response did not provide specifics sought at all. The application also asked whether there has been instances of expired aircraft components being used. Again, no details disclosures were made there. Comprehensive findings from earlier crash investigations was also sought. Information that could help identify the recurring gaps or systemic failures. Those details also not furnished. The DGCA, however, has clarified why it could not furnish these details as well. The regulator stated that concerned Central Public Information Officer, or the CPIO, handling only matters related to cadre management, or that is Group A technical. It's a bit of a technicality there behind which they're hiding. And according to DGCA, the specific information sought in the RTI application does not form part of records maintained by the particular office. Let that sink in. The regulator further added that the application has been forwarded to another concerned CPIO within the DGCA for appropriate action and response. However, when it came to staffing strengths, the RTI's response confirmed what it perhaps most concerning at the moment. Multiple key departments within the DGCA are operating below the sanctioned capacity. So while critical audit and compliance data are not shared, what did emerge clearly is that the regulator itself is stretched. And why exactly does that matter? Because over the past decade, India has witnessed several fatal civil aviation crashes involving commercial airlines as well as charter and private aircraft. In June 2018, The Beechcraft King Air C-90 charter aircraft crashed in Mumbai's Ghalkoper. That was shortly after takeoff, killing all 4 on board and a pedestrian on the ground. In August of 2020, tragedy struck at the Kozhikode when Air India Express Flight 1344 overshot a tabletop runway during heavy rain. 19 passengers and both pilots lost their life. The final probe report cited pilot error, which is always the case, but we never really get to know. In June 2025, one of the deadliest aviation disasters in recent Indian aviation unfolded in the Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 bound to London. Remember, crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad. 241 passengers and 19 crew members were killed. Detailed investigation still underway. There again, some reports were said that it's pilot error because the pilot never made it, so easy to blame them. But the court has come down very heavy on that case and said, no, you have to get down to the problem and identify what's going on. But even then, January of 2026, a private aircraft carrying Ajit Pawar, we all know that, crashed near Baramati, killing all 5 people on board. A preliminary report is expected soon. We still don't know the real cause. And just yesterday, an air ambulance flying from Jharkhand to Delhi crashed in the Chatra district, killing all 7 on board, including the medical staff and the patient. Now, each of these crashes unfolded under very different circumstances. Different aircraft, different operators, different weather conditions, different technical and human factors completely. And yet here we are. That is a national safety concern, which begs the question, is India's aviation regulator struggling to keep pace with the growth of India's aviation industry? To talk to us a little more about that, let me bring in an expert now. Joining us next is Sanjay Lazar. He's an aviation expert, trainer, and the CEO of Aviala's Consultants. Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us and for your time. You just heard me bring out all those details that we have sought in that RTI reply. This has been spoken about in the past, but for the first time, we have very clear data telling us that exactly how much of shortage does the watchdog, in fact, have in itself. And while we've been talking about, about 40% shortage of even the watchdog not having enough to keep checks, how concerning is it?
Good evening, Sonal. Thank you for having me in your show. It's highly alarming that we've first of all had, 3 incidents in the last 24 hours. But if you go back over the last 5 years, we've had almost 50 incidents of aircrafts and, airlines, etc., plus almost 320 people dead. Now, this is an alarming incident. I'm incidentally at an aviation conference today, and this is one of the subjects that, people talk about. They're concerned about what's happening in India's aviation. It needs to be mentioned here. You've pointed out correctly that almost 50%, 40-odd% of the DGCA is understaffed. But it also points to a greater malaise within our aviation system, that there is not enough oversight of the DGCA, there is not enough oversight of the ministry, there is not enough churning within these networks, within these setups. And the government needs to look at it. Today, we are at 800 odd aircraft in this country. We are moving to, we've got 1,700 aircraft on order. We will move to 3,000 aircraft in 5 to 6 years, 300 airports. How do we manage this if we're not going to create a special cadre? And this is where I believe that the government has missed a trick here, because, we had a bill in Parliament to make the DGCA into a CAA authority in 2014. It should have been created as an independent body. It should have had its own cadre of officers who would look after this and fill this up. I think the time has come, and it's long overdue, that we get a kind of restructuring in our aviation system. We get greater safety oversight. That should be the focus of the government more than just building airports blindly. It's senseless to just keep building airports and have accidents every alternate day.
No, you're right about the airports building, because just yesterday there was another RTI reply that we had filed, and what we got to know was that just in UP alone, out of the 7 airports that had been built up, 6 of them now stand defunct. After spending crores and crores of them, now there is not a single flight that is taking out. So it was bad decision making by the central government. This was under the Udan scheme, of course. It's got nothing to do with the UP government. But I mean, which begged the question yesterday that who's clearing these things? But now what today's RTI throws another leg, peels down the problem to the core. But Sanjay, from what you are saying that government does not have enough oversight. You mean the aviation industry players are taking people for a ride? There is not enough oversight? Am I to understand that correctly?
Well, when you talk of the legacy airlines, the Air Indias, the Indigos, the Akasas, the Spice Jets, there is robust oversight there. Still, you find stuff slipping through the cracks. But when you talk of the smaller NSOPs, the small charter companies, there's a lot that slips through the cracks. And this is where the problem happens. If you're understaffed by 50% as a regulator, it means, number one, you've either got too much to do as a regulator, and the government has not bothered to fill up the vacancies. So therefore, where do you concentrate? Do you concentrate on the big legacy airlines that are carrying lakhs of passengers a day? Or do you look at the smaller charter operators who would fly 2 flights a day or 10 flights a day, as opposed to the hundreds and thousands of flights? And this is where we are finding the issue, because there's obviously some shortfall. Audits are not being completed in time. Investigation reports are pending for 3 years. We've just seen VSR and Ajit Dada Pawar's tragic death. The old report of the Mumbai incident has still not been submitted. So,
Yeah.
I mean, where do we go from there? So this is something that the government, the cabinet will have to look at, and the minister, and I reach out to him. I think it's high time that we look at this very holistically, or divide the DGCA, create a safety mechanism separately, which overlooks and it has complete oversight responsibility.
So, Sanjay, help me understand this. After the Air India tragedy, we were expecting things to change. I remember for almost a couple of months after that, we constantly had flight cancellations because the pilots were taking that call. They said, even if there is a little snag, I'm not going to go over it. I'm going to report it and I will refuse to fly this aircraft. We had that, right? Then following it, we had the Indigo entire tragedy, where again, the government had to step in, they appeared to be penalizing Indigo for having not followed enough safety protocols. But that story also made it very clear that aviation players, the aircraft player, they are very clear. They want to make profits. They are not going to prioritize passenger safety. That is the work of the government. Are you telling me now that despite both these massive tragedies that we've seen unfold in front of us, the government has still not woken up?
Well, I do believe that the government needs to wake up more. If they have woken up, they've only, at stage 1 got out of bed. They need to get on their feet and get cracking, start changing, whole things and rework this entire scenario. Yeah. I think somebody can't hear me.
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, Sanjay, go ahead.
So this is the thing. I believe that the cabinet needs to step in and crack the whip on the ministry. The ministry needs to crack the whip on the DGC. I think structural reform is what we are missing, because I can still see a lot of flagrant violations occurring at the smaller levels, and this is something that needs to be tackled post haste.
All right, Sanjay, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much. But Sanjay, they're making it very clear that it's not just time to wake up, it's time to run and solve for the problem here. We cannot have an expanding aviation sector in the country where the watchdog itself is not empowered enough. We cannot expect the watchdog to ensure all checks are taking place if they are only understaffed. And who takes care of that? It has to rest with the aviation ministry. So let's hope they are listening in. Despite all the data that was not shared with us, one thing is absolutely clear, that this is time for the aviation sector in India to wake up and smell the coffee.